Toyota Halftime. Let's go places.
Well, the Buffalo Bills have been productive. 24 plays run, 24 points, 53 yards from Josh Allen to Dawson Knox. 24-13 Buffalo with the lead in this rematch of the AFC Championship game from last year. So you look at Arrowhead now as they head to halftime and clear the field. We take a peek at the radar, which is starting to show rain and may show some lightning potentially on the way. So hang in there with us as we keep you entertained here at Toyota Halftime. Mike Tirico, Tony Dungy, and Drew Brees. Does it feel like the games have been close this year? Well, through 5 weeks of the season, we have 18 games with the game-winning score in the last minute of regulation or overtime, including the game in Cincinnati today, where, Tony, nobody could make a field goal throughout the fourth quarter and the end of overtime. We'll take you to those highlights and start with, at the end of all these missed field goals, first Minnesota and Miami and Tampa Bay, I beg your pardon. After a low-scoring return in Foxborough, Brady was sharp, 400-plus yards and 5 touchdowns.
Red zone struggles last week without Gronk, but not this week. Evans and Antonio Brown, 2 touchdowns each.
The Giants with injuries, more on those in a second, but Dak and Zeke, too much Dallas.
Yes, feed me again. Talk about Ezekiel Elliott coming back.
They're 4-1. San Francisco and Arizona. Arizona remains undefeated, Drew.
Yeah, they weren't real sharp today on offense, but when you need to play at the end of the game, just throw it up to D-Hop.
Tony, as promised, Bengals and Packers, 5 missed field goals, less than 8 minutes of game time, including this one.
Yes, no, we've got it. We won. No, what? It didn't go through?
The rookie McPherson hit the flag at the top of the pole. That was outside the pole. But Mason Crosby had 7 field goal attempts, made his first 3, missed his next 3, got the game winner, and the Packers are 4-1. Good bounce back from their start. Denver and Pittsburgh Steelers snap a 3-game slide, Drew.
Yeah, these are the big passing plays on offense that we're used to seeing from the Steelers. Haven't seen them until today.
We'll see them next Sunday night against Seattle. Wild back and forth, Tony. 6 touchdowns in the fourth quarter between the Browns and the Chargers. How about the last one, though?
Yes, we couldn't stop them, so let's help them get in the end zone.
Cleveland doing that. They were trying to let them score so they get the ball back. They did, but they didn't score. The Chargers win 47-42. One of the wild ones. And this is a Charger team now that is 4-1 and rolling in the AFC West. Let me bring Mike Florio. I mentioned there were some injuries, some significant ones throughout the day. Mike, what's the update?
Well, Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow was actually taken to a hospital after that overtime loss to the Packers with a throat contusion. The team believes he was poked in the throat at some point during the game. He has told multiple people that he believes he will be fine, so that is good news. Not good news for the Giants. Running back Saquon Barkley left the game early today with an ankle injury. X-rays negative. It's reportedly a sprain. We'll keep an eye on that one as the week unfolds. And quarterback Daniel Jones suffered a concussion trying to get the ball into the end zone later in the game. He'll have to have all the appropriate clearances in order to play. If he can't play, it's Mike Glennon next week against the Rams. Also, receiver Kenny Golladay hyperextended his knee. Tried to keep going, couldn't. He said he'll have an MRI tomorrow, Mike.
Yeah, without their top 3 receivers, their leading running back and quarterback at the end of that game. Crazy. Much more ahead. First, Toyota reminds us that confidence looks great on you in a stylish Toyota car. All right, you're looking at a picture from Arrowhead where the Bills have jumped out to an 11-point halftime lead. We talked about the weather and the issues. Severe weather is in the area, and they are clearing the Stadium Bowl. They've asked everyone to find some shelter inside the concourses, so it will be a while here with a delay. This happens from time to time. Drew, I remember we talked about when we heard this was potentially going to happen. Yeah. I remember it happened to you guys in Tampa Bay. How long ago?
2013.
Okay.
It happened, second game of the year, and we were in the locker room for about an hour, and it kind of turned into like a Super Bowl halftime in a way. Take your pads off, right, have a turkey sandwich, kind of make some conversation. You go through a little bit of the halftime adjustments, and really it's out of your control, so you're just waiting for things to clear.
We're going to give you a bunch of highlights from the game, so hang right with us. Tony, I'm just curious, as a coach, it's such a small time that you get in a normal halftime. Now that you may have 10, 15, 20 minutes, would you think about more adjustments at halftime?
You try not to do that. You want to get your players just comfortable and try to alert them when we're going to go again. You're looking to the officials, when are we going to start this up? Put us on our 12-minute time, and then we'll go from there. But believe it or not, Denny Green used to practice this when I worked for him. Oh, yeah, we'd have practices where he'd stop it for 25, 30 minutes and then get started again, see who could adjust and get ready for everything.
He thought of everything.
He did.
Well, luckily, this is right where we do Football Night in America. So I just reached into the recycle bin, and we have the highlights from earlier. So let's get to them. It was a great Sunday of NFL action. We told you how many close games. Let's go in-depth on this wild Chargers and Browns game. Fourth quarter, Chargers down 27-21. Justin Herbert's a highlight all the time. 42 yards to Mike Williams.
Yeah, we get outside the pocket there. Mike Williams runs this corner nod across the field. Nobody home.
And the Browns' next drive, Baker Mayfield, David Njoku, huge game, 71-yard score here.
He really did. And Drew and I were sitting there, somebody's going to catch him, but nobody could.
He can run.
Njoku, 7 catches, $149, and a score. That was the longest career reception he had. Ensuing Chargers drive, Austin Eckler scores, tied at 35. Next Browns possession, it's Kareem Hunt from 8 yards out, and Cleveland takes the lead.
This is when you wondered, are they going to stop either side, right? It was just back and forth.
No one could get a stop.
You got it, Tony. Here we go again. It's Herbert. It's Eckler. It's 19 yards. He's doing it in the pass game and the run game. 42-41, Chargers within 1. Why do we say 1? Earlier, Tristan Vizcaino missed an extra point. He missed another extra point. They're still down 1, but they get the ball back. Less than 2 minutes to go. Third down, Eckler, the carry. He slides to stay in bounds.
I don't want to score too fast. Don't give him another chance. I really don't want to score here. So what does Cleveland do?
We're going to carry him into the end zone, Coach.
You're going to score.
Classic. 47-42. They got the ball back, couldn't do anything. 1-a win for the 4-1 Chargers, the team the Chiefs are chasing in the AFC West. And look at the numbers. Herbert, 4 touchdown passes and the 1 rushing, just under 400 yards on this day.
Yeah. I saw Justin Herbert his senior year at Oregon, got a chance to meet them before the season started, and you knew this was an impressive guy. But what he's done his first 2 years in the league, it's amazing, Drew.
And also the fact that they're winning these close games. We saw this happen a lot last year, and they came out on the losing side of a lot of them. So I think it says a lot for their team, what they're building from a leadership perspective, and the belief that Brandon Staley, Joe Lombardi, and others are instilling into this team. They're as explosive as any offense in the league. But when you start to rattle off these wins now, the confidence just grows.
We got to see them in preseason, and I know you were impressed with Herbert, and you watched San Francisco and the Chargers in one of those couple-day scrimmages before a preseason game, and you came back and you were wowed about Herbert. Now, you watch NFL guys. I mean, you're now second on the all-time passing list. I'm sorry. But that was last week, I know. Yeah, that was last week. But rarely do guys like you get wowed by somebody's ability to throw the ball, and you were. Why?
So I watched their practice, and they're just kind of tossing it around a little bit. And then, believe it or not, they do the quarterback competition at the end of practice. So this is when they're just goofing around, and they're throwing at targets. And I'm telling you, I have never seen the ball come out of a guy's hand like it did Justin Herbert. Yeah. The ball speeds up the further it gets down the field, which is unbelievable. So combine that with intelligence, with maturity, with toughness, with athleticism, and all the other attributes he brings to the quarterback position. You feel like that and all the weapons around him, and with that Joe Lombardi offense, they are explosive and dangerous.
And that's the thing. We haven't talked about these guys a lot, but they have some weaponry. Keenan Allen is a great receiver. Mike Williams is playing great for them. And these guys, yeah, Justin Herbert puts the ball on the money, but these guys get open and they make some catches.
The win over Kansas City in Arrowhead a few weeks ago, then they beat Vegas, now they beat Cleveland. They go to Baltimore. Huge game for them next week. You win that one, and you have wins at Kansas City, at Baltimore. You start to get talking about driver's seat maybe in the AFC. So we just have an update for you from Kansas City on the weather. It looks like 10:30 Eastern time would be the earliest we can restart. See the yellow and the red that just peeking bottom left corner of your screen? That's what's coming. That's what has the electricity in it as you look at the radar loop. So that's why they're sending the fans out of the bowl in case there is cloud to ground and dangerous lightning. So they do that. So as they get everyone safe, and we wait the resumption of this game with Buffalo up 24-13. Another highlight of the recycle bin. Green Bay taking on Cincinnati. Both teams 3-1. Bengals feeling it after the Thursday night win over Jacksonville. All the build-up around Joe Burrow. We're going to take you to the fourth. Packers up 8. And Joe Mixon for the 8-yard score, Tony.
And it was good that he got it in the end zone, because now all you have to do is make an extra point. You don't have to make a field goal.
Go for 2. And T. Higgins.
2.
Great by Burrow, keeping it alive. Ties the game at 22. And then this thing went a little bit sideways. Basically, Crosby's so consistent. 27 straight attempts made, but then started the misses to the left. That one from 36 yards. So the Bengals have time. Can they get in position? And then McPherson, rookie kicker, good kicker, from 57. Ding, off the upright. Wait, 21 seconds? You gave Rodgers the ball in good field position? Bang. 1 first down. Crosby from 51 for the win, and the Packers win. No! He missed to the left. We're going to go to overtime. So the first play of overtime, Cincinnati gets it. Burrow can make something happen, right?
Yeah, just a little miscommunication on an option route. His receiver broke the other way.
Devondre Campbell the pick. They're in the red zone. Third down.
Game's over, right?
They're not even waiting for fourth down.
Kick it on third down.
He's lined up in the middle. No, Mason Crosby. Reminds us of like 3 years ago when he went through a similar game like this. So since he gets back down the field, it's McPherson for 49 yards. You know those ribbons at the top of the goalpost? It's flag football. He nailed the flag at the top. That doesn't count, though.
He thought it was good when he hit it. He cannot believe it went left.
No. You can give him 100 kicks. He can never hit that flag again.
I wish I could hit a golf shot like that.
Exactly right. So Rodgers, who can hit the golf ball, gets the ball back. Big throw to Randall Cobb.
16. Unbelievable.
They convert it, and finally, the game winner. Crosby knocks it down. Aaron Rodgers and company get the win. You know there's confidence in Crosby. Aaron talked to his special teams coach about it.
I said, Mo, is he going to make it? And he said, oh, yeah, he's going to make it. So I said, let's kick it then. He was confident. I was confident. I ended up standing way down on the end. The first couple, I was more towards the middle of the team, so maybe the good juju is down on the end, so I'm going to make sure I'm down on the end for a future game when he kicks.
All right, conversation with Mo Drayton left Rodgers, that little Rodgers grin on his face.
I was confident, yeah.
and the Packers
Only
are
missed 4.
Exactly, and the Packers are 4-1 again. First off, before the conversation a little deeper, a win like this, where you're on the ropes a little bit, but you pull it out on the road, one of those happy flights back. What can that do for a team?
It really does energize you, and it tells you, hey, we can win in any circumstance. You've got to keep playing, doesn't matter, keep battling, and this will help Green Bay in the long run.
Well, similar win to 2 weeks ago on Sunday night when they went to San Francisco, got the ball back late, had to make a couple big pass plays, and Mason Crosby hits a 50-plus yarder at that point too. So the Packers know how to win these close games. I think a little aberration with what happened with the field goal kicker today, but they know how to win these close ones.
It was the focus on the kickers, but let's go back to the quarterbacks a minute, and with Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow in their day.
And excuse me, with Aaron Rodgers, you always believe that he knows what's going on. He's not going to panic, and he's going to get the ball to guys who can make plays. And he's got this chemistry with Adams.
I was just waiting for someone to double Davante Adams at some point.
I mean,
he is the best receiver on the field.
11 catches, 206 yards, and a touchdown for Davante Adams. Now, their combination we know. We're getting to know this one, the LSU Tigers, Burrow and Chase, Joe to Jamar.
Well, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have known about this connection for a long time, but I think the rest of the world is seeing it now, especially after the preseason woes that Jamar Chase went through. I don't think there's a young receiver who is playing as well as this guy is right now, and obviously the chemistry that they have, the confidence they have in one another, but Jamar Chase, down the field, deep threat, the intermediate routes. He's doing a little bit of everything. It's not just one thing.
6 catches, 159 yards.
You mentioned the struggles he had in preseason, but the advantage was Joe Burrow knew this guy.
Right.
He was not concerned, he's not going to be able to catch. He's not going to come through in the regular season. He didn't doubt that one bit, and they've been red hot.
In the draft process, as Cincinnati's investing in surrounding Joe Burrow, his influence there is certainly part of that pick. And you go, wait, the guy's talking about he can't see the stripes on the ball the way he had it in college in terms of Chase. Well, that's a long gone conversation. That duo's good. I think this Bengals team is good. I know they lose this game, they're 3-2, but I think we've seen a lot from them. But they have to keep Burrow healthy. He took one shot when he was running around in the game earlier today, but then as Mike Florio, we'll bring you back in here, Mike, he went to the hospital after the game. Just give us a little more detail on that with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it didn't happen during that scary moment when he hit his head on the turf. It was later in the game. The team believes he was poked in the throat. He reportedly was having trouble speaking after the game, so they took him to a hospital for evaluation. He has told multiple people he believes he will be fine, and we're continuing to wait for further updates.
Okay. 3-2 there. They could be tied for first depending on what Baltimore does. They're 3-1. They play Indianapolis in the Monday nighter. Cincinnati will go to Detroit next week, and then Cincy and Baltimore in a couple of weeks. Huge game coming up in the AFC North. Let's skip you over to the NFC, where we saw Dallas on kickoff night in Tampa lose to the Bucs. They haven't lost since, and they're taking on the Giants. Second quarter, up 3-0. It's Dak Prescott, deep ball for CeeDee Lamb, 49-yard score here.
They can attack you in so many different ways. It's the vertical passing game, really, to all three wide receivers, not just one. Of course, the intermediate passing game, Dak outside the pocket, and then the run game as well.
And then the injuries for the Giants. The left ankle of Saquon Barkley turned there in the first quarter. Barkley didn't return. Remember, he had the season-ending torn ACL in Week 2 last year. Daniel Jones hit hard by the goal line by the combination of Jabril Cox and Chauncey Golston. He was carted off the field with a concussion. They flip you over to the third quarter. Giants are down. Their quarterback, their running back, all three of their top receivers, and the Cowboys just kept rolling. We showed you this earlier, Dak to Zeke.
And Dak Prescott is playing with such confidence. He's playing under control. He is making great decisions and great throws.
So Dallas held the lead. Mike Glennon's the backup for the Giants. He comes in, and Trevon Diggs, Al mentioned this, talking about Stephon Diggs earlier. Trevon Diggs, 6 picks this year, third player since the merger with an interception in each of his first 5 games. We were talking about the record for the Cowboys, who've had great DBs over the years. The record for most interceptions by a Cowboy in a season is 11 by
Everson Walls. And Everson Walls looked a lot like Trevon Diggs. Kind of spindly guy with great hands. You put the ball in his area, and he could come down with it.
I know this. When you take a DB that has ball skills, you think twice about throwing any ball within that vicinity, especially guys that have the ability to jump in front, and you just know if it touches their fingertips, they're bringing it in.
So if you were Mac Jones in New England next week, would you think twice before you threw where Trevon Diggs was on the field?
Absolutely. I'm going away from him at all costs unless I love that matchup or we're going to hit him with a double move or something that has a certain intention to it.
I want to say a little bit about Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator. We knew the Cowboys had skill on offense, and they've got weapons with Dak back. They're going to score, but their defense looks different this year. They're playing with confidence. They're playing aggressive. I think he's simplified some things. I didn't think they'd be this good, this fast on defense, but Dan has done a great job.
Remember the conversation we were having in Tampa about Dak Prescott coming back from the injury? Where was his confidence going to be? He played well. This is right around tomorrow's the 1-year anniversary of injuring his leg against the Giants. I want to read you a quick quote from Dak. As much as I try to put it out of my mind, try not to think about it, I think it naturally does enter your mind. It's in the back of your head, and I'm grateful, as you said, almost a year past this thing, for the way I've grown and everything around it. And you can see that in Dak Prescott. There is certain kind of aura and command that is around terrific quarterbacks that we continue to sense growth in Dak as we watch him.
I'd say this, first and foremost, when you have an injury like that, and I go back to when I dislocated my throwing shoulder coming out of San Diego, there was a moment where I thought I may never play football again. And I'm sure that thought also entered Dak Prescott's mind with the severity of that injury. So when you are able to come back, when you do step on that field again, you're able to play the quarterback position that you've been trained to play your whole life. There's a sense of gratitude and also just this purpose with everything that you do. And I see that in his demeanor. I see that in his leadership. And I do believe that the style of play for him has changed a little bit. I don't see him being as aggressive outside the pocket with certain runs or how he's breaking tackles. I see a more thoughtful, a more intentional Dak Prescott with finding the open guy, sliding, getting down, living to play another day. But it's resulting in a lot of really good decisions and a lot of points.
And Mike, you mentioned, opening day and having them. They were at our hotel.
Right.
And I got a chance to visit with Dak at their chapel service. And it was amazing to me with all the guys around. There was no question who the leader on this football team is. And he hadn't played in almost a year. But those guys had confidence in him, and he had confidence. He felt he was ready for this season, and it sure looks like it.
Healthy and playing well. A guy who has been healthy to this point and put up good numbers. Pro Football Focus has him rated one of the top quarterbacks in their grading system the first few weeks of the season. Daniel Jones got hurt for the Giants today. I bring Mike Florio back in for more on Jones and Saquon Barkley and those injuries for Big Blue.
Yeah, and they've got the Rams coming to town next weekend, so they got to try to get these guys healthy. I'll start with Saquon Barkley. It was early in the game where he suffered an ankle injury, just one of those fluke things we see happen from time to time. The ankle gets rolled up on, or he steps awkwardly on someone's foot, and out he goes. It was badly swollen, x-rays negative. It's a sprain, and we'll see when he can return. And then with Daniel Jones, it was a helmet-to-helmet hit. Legal, but still, helmet-to-helmet near the goal line, resulted in a concussion. He was wobbly, he was woozy afterward. They got him out of the game. He's in the concussion protocol. He'll have to be cleared by team doctors, by an independent neurologist to return to practice, return to game action. It's Mike Glennon until Daniel Jones is back. And also receiver Kenny Golladay hyperextended his knee early, tried to come back into the game, was having trouble with it. He'll have an MRI on it tomorrow, Mike.
And Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton were already inactive for the Giants going into that game. So, I mean, your whole fantasy football team of Giants wiped out here in the last couple of weeks.
That is so tough. As you say, all those injuries, and now you lose your two best players on offense and two guys that handle the ball the most. It's Mike Glennon's got his work cut out for him.
He does, but the Giants win last week's game despite a couple of those injuries. They kept it close today until the two main guys went down. But so they got to find a way to get healthy if they want to make a run at this.
Yeah, Alan Chris just showed the woes of the Jets, who lost in Atlanta, over in London early this morning, and the Giants. Those two teams continue to struggle. Meantime, speaking of out in Kansas City, where the Bills have an 11-point halftime lead, the electricity that's in the air with that storm that's moving, you can see the flashes of lightning. It's why they asked folks, most of them have, some haven't, to clear the bowl at Arrowhead Stadium. That storm might just be sliding west of the stadium with the worst of it. So there are some folks who have remained, not heeding the warning that's up on the big board to your left. So hopefully things will slide by, and the teams have headed back to the locker room, and they are still back there and still waiting. We're probably some 24 minutes removed from the end of the first half. So as that delay goes, like Tony said, give me the 12-minute clock. Let me know when we're going to get started. Let all the guests get back in their seats. Enjoy a refreshment or two or three. If you are an employer in Kansas City metro area, maybe let folks come in. They'll log onto their Zoom calls a few hours late, right? So in the interim, while we wait for Mother Nature, let's go back to the highlights. Arizona 4-0, trying to stay undefeated. There's Trey Lance making his first start. Jimmy Garoppolo out with the calf injury. First drive, looking deep. Travis Benjamin, the intended receiver. Buda Baker's there.
Yeah, there was a little bit of feast or famine with Trey Lance today. They did some good things offensively. Definitely had a scheme to fit his strengths. Just a couple of these errant throws at times.
15 of 29, 192, no touchdowns. He tried to run one in here, and oh man, Isaiah Simmons and Tanner Vallejo waiting for him at the goal line.
Tell you what, though, you want to win over your team. Lower your shoulder there at the goal line and do your best to get in.
That was 4th and goal. Tony, this is how San Francisco got its run game going.
Yeah, they've had a lot of injuries in the backfield. Deebo Samuel can do it all. They put him back there to run.
So it's 10-7 now. Kyler Murray, he kept working on his arm during the game. There was some pain. It felt good here with DeAndre Hopkins with a go-get-it for 30 yards.
I always felt if you had a guy you loved throwing to and you didn't think the DB had good ball skills, just throw it up.
He went right after him one more time. And the Arizona Cardinals are 5-0 for the first time since 1974, and they weren't in Arizona then. They get the victory over San Francisco, 17-10. We've talked about Seattle with the Russell Wilson injury, and obviously the Rams. There's such strength in the NFC West. No game is easy, so not the prettiest win, but it really doesn't matter for Arizona.
No, it doesn't. They're learning how to win, and usually every week we're doing Kyler Murray did this, and it was all over the place, but it was other people today, and that defense you mentioned, they've got some active guys, Chandler Jones, Buda Baker, Isaiah Simmons. People are going to start to hear about these guys.
Yes, and they're 2-0 in their division right now.
Right.
In a division that at the start of the year, we probably would have had Arizona maybe towards the bottom compared to the other three, and yet here they are, the only undefeated team. But to your point, Coach, offensively explosive, but defensively, what they're able to do generating pass rush and then having these guys in the secondary that are hybrid-type players that can cover, good ball skills, cover ground. They really got a little bit of everything back there.
You know, we mentioned their defense, the guys on defense. We didn't mention J.J. Watt, who had a big pass deflection on 4th down during the game today that allowed Arizona to get the victory. So this team's starting to come together. We mentioned Russell Wilson's going to be out for a while with the tendon injury with his finger. The Rams look good on Thursday night. They go to Seattle and get a win. So would you be, if you were in the shoes of Cliff Kingsbury, the Arizona head coach, confident about where your team sits, about quarter of the way through the season?
I'd be very confident because of the way we're playing. You know, everybody said, hey, this is the toughest division in football, and this team's good, and that team's good. But they're doing things week in and week out to win games, and they're starting to believe. And you know, when you get hot and you believe, that's a big part of it.
And they're not just winning in one way. They've got so many playmakers on offense. You saw Rondale Moore make a bunch of plays today, right? So it's not just D-Hop. I have to throw my Purdue guy in there. But defensively, I think, is where I've been the most impressed with their team. Their ability to generate pass rush, their ability to create takeaways. That's championship caliber football.
I mentioned Chandler Jones, the Syracuse guy you mentioned before, but I wouldn't do that. Or an Arizona State guy for Al. Al Michaels standing by out at Arrowhead. Let's get an update on where we stand with the game delayed here for a moment in Kansas City. Al?
Yeah, Mike, the weather in Tempe and Gainesville, Florida, a lot better than it is right now. A look at the stadium. The wind is really whipping. They've asked the crowd to evacuate. Most of them have. Here's a look. Obviously, the red and the yellow is rain. It's coming in. There seems to be a little bit of a break maybe behind it, and then there's more coming. But the delay right now is approaching the half-hour mark. And obviously, when the teams do come back onto the field, we will be given a number of minutes. There it is, right? You saw several flashes of lightning. Haven't heard any thunder, and the Bills just kind of hanging around, waiting. And the first half, 24-13, Buffalo on top. A lot of good running, not a lot of good passing. The one pass to Diggs, of course, 61 yards. But we should look at some of the highlights in the first half. Unusual, because we couldn't have predicted exactly the way it took place with Mahomes and Allen.
Yeah, I think that what happened is both of these quarterbacks decided they were going to take off and do a little running, and it set up for the Buffalo Bills some of the big plays in the passing game. Not so much for Kansas City, that first drive, 3 big runs. But it was really these 3 big passes in the game for Buffalo that separated the two. Patrick Mahomes said, okay, if that's the way you're going to play, we'll do that. Little trick play down in the red zone there. Mahomes put that one on the board. But this really has turned into, it's not a stunner anymore, because we've seen the Chiefs now this season struggle with this strategy. This is the one that has slowed down Patrick Mahomes. Keep those 2 safeties back there. Don't let him have an explosive play to Tyreek Hill. Go beat up Travis Kelce. Get your hands on Hill. If you get a couple of penalties, no big deal. And that is working right now.
You brought up an interesting point before about home field advantage. Granted, it's week 5. They're going to play 17 games, not 16 this year, as we all know. One more, and we're going to take a look at the quarterback comparison. But when it comes to home field advantage, as you look at the comparison of the 2 quarterbacks there and what happened thus far in the first half, only 131 through the air from Mahomes, 52 yards rushing. They are the 2 leading rushers. But going back to what you brought up before, if Buffalo wins this game, last year, of course, Buffalo had to come here because of the standings and what it wound up in terms of record. If Buffalo wins this game, they will have 2 more wins than Kansas City and own the tiebreak, which is tantamount to having a 3-game lead in the race for the conference championship.
Yeah, and Baltimore will have that same leg up on Kansas City as well. So early in the season, you can't get knocked out, and we know Kansas City is way too good to keep going like this, but we have to talk about the defense. The big mistakes on the Kansas City Chiefs defense, and they're missing 2 of their best players out here tonight, and they are taking a toll on what is happening. Now, do I think Patrick Mahomes can come back and throw it around and get them back in the game? Of course I do. But I also feel a Buffalo Bills team that is much more comfortable than what they were a year ago. They're much better. They are rotating 8 and 9 guys along that defensive line. So in much the same way that the Kansas City Chiefs looked at their game at the Super Bowl and said, we have to fix our offensive line, the Buffalo Bills said, if we're going to go beat Kansas City, we have to go 8 deep on the defensive line. They did it, and they've been playing great.
Yeah, the top 2 draft choices were defensive linemen. Here are the standings right now. now, so Buffalo 3-1 coming in. New England wins today. Miami and the Jets are each 1-4. In the West, Chargers win a crazy one at home against Cleveland. Denver and Vegas both lose today, and KC will either be 3-2 or 2-3. Michelle Tafoya, what's happening downstairs?
Well, Sean McDermott was just out here in the tunnel where I am. I am just inside the tunnel off of the field, and I asked him what the players were doing in the Buffalo locker room. He said it's hot in there. It's really small, and so he came out just to get some air, and a couple other Buffalo Bills have as well. They're hanging out in the hallway, kind of stretching, staying loose. He says, McDermott does, his team is very businesslike right now. They didn't want the radio on. He offered them the radio. They didn't want it. They are eating sandwiches, although a couple have complained to me that there's too much peanut butter on the sandwiches. It's like 70-30 with the jelly, so they're not enjoying those as much. But basically keeping it, businesslike, but very relaxed. I mean, if you talk to the guys that I've run into, it's relaxed. Now, the best case scenario, the NFL tells us, is that 9:45 is the time that these players could get back out here on the field. They'd give them 5 or 10 minutes to warm up. But again, that's the best case scenario. We just don't have anything firm right now, Al.
All right, Michelle, so that would be 10 minutes from now. All right, we got to send it back to the studio. Mike Tirico, I want to know what the proper ratio is on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Back to you.
Well, I have a nut allergy, so I'm the one here who's not the expert. I'll turn to you guys. Proper balance there, guys?
To me, the real question is it grape jelly or strawberry jelly?
Does that matter?
Yeah. And then how are we cutting it? Are we cutting it, square or rectangular?
And white bread or whole wheat?
Triangle.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
One thing I can tell you, though, from being there, both sides, that home locker room is much more comfortable and much more spacious than the visiting locker room right now.
As soon as Michelle said the guys are complaining how hot it is, Tony was shaking his head. Yeah, you got it.
There.
So, in Week 10, Sunday Night Football scheduled to be in Vegas. That's next time we'll see the Chiefs on Sunday night take on the Raiders. The Raiders were there today taking on Chicago. Jon Gruden's been in the news a lot this week, and we'll talk about that here momentarily. Justin Fields getting the start, and here, touchdown pass, first of his career. Jesper Horsted from a couple yards out. Bears were on top 7-3. Raiders offense could not get going. It's an 8-point game. 4th and 5. Gotta have it. Carr's got a man breaking free, but just overshoots him. It's incomplete, and the Raiders have lost 2 straight after starting 3-0. Let me go back to Jon Gruden, who's been in the news this week after apologizing for sending several offensive emails in 2011, including one that used a racial trope about the executive director of the NFLPA, DeMaurice Smith. Gruden addressed that situation after the game today.
I'm not going to answer all these questions today. I think I've addressed it already. I can't remember a lot of the things that transpired 10 or 12 years ago, but I stand here in front of everybody apologizing. I know I don't have an ounce of racism in me. I'm a guy that takes pride in leading people together, and I'll continue to do that for the rest of my life. And again, I apologize to D. Smith and anybody out there that I have offended.
Tony, your reaction to this story?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit pregame. What Jon Gruden did in that email, definitely insensitive, definitely inappropriate, definitely immature. I thought he attacked the character of a man, but he apologized for it. He said it wasn't racially motivated. I have to believe him. And I think this was an incident that was 10 years ago. He apologized. I think we need to accept that apology and move on.
And we'll reiterate what we shared on Football Night in America, the 2011 timeline. That's when John and I were calling Monday Night Football, and we were partners for 7 years and traveled the country together. And I'm as close personally with John as probably anybody who I've been around in the league, given the length of the relationship. And I can echo what Tim Brown said in a Sirius XM satellite radio interview in the last 24 hours or so. I never saw or heard anything that you would say there was a racial tone to it in any way from John over time. That doesn't mean that what was in the email was right. It was wrong. He has said as much, repeated that after the game today, but that's just personal observation and trying to be candid with our audience. And bring Mike Florio back in one more time. Mike, you have talked to the league about what, or you're listening to the folks around the league about what might be the next step internally and league-wide regarding this matter.
Yeah, Mike, plenty of discussion, as you can imagine, all weekend long about this story that broke late Friday afternoon. The league office has a Monday morning meeting every week. This definitely will be one of the topics that will be addressed, and it will surely be addressed at length. There are some in the league office who believe that Jon Gruden won't be suspended by the league. It presumably would fall under the personal conduct policy. But here's the reality. He wasn't working for for the league or any of the teams when this happened. Same thing as with the Raiders, who could take action against him. He was not employed by the Raiders back in 2011 when the email was sent. The league made a very strong statement condemning the email, but as a practical matter, this happened at a time when he wasn't employed by the league, wasn't employed by any of its teams. Makes it very difficult for the league or the Raiders to do anything about it now.
So that conversation will continue. We'll continue to keep an ear on that. Mike, thank you. You see the rain continuing to fall. Those of you just tuning in, our Sunday night game has been delayed for about a half hour now at Arrowhead, with the Bills leading 24-13. As you look at the radar, you see that some more intense, as the brighter the colors get, storms moving up towards Arrowhead and from the west to the east, southwest to northeast. So the fringe of that may get to the stadium and lead to more electricity in the air, more lightning. That's why they've cleared the bowl and the players are back in the locker room. So we continue to go through the highlights. We'll see the Steelers next Sunday night against Seattle. Big Ben, it has been a slow start with Matt Canada as the new offensive coordinator. First drive they get going, 50 yards to Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, Big Ben hasn't looked real sharp this year. The offense has been sputtering, but today they hit some of these big plays, down the field throws that we're used to seeing from Big Ben.
253 and 2 scores, but Tony, you're going to see the second one to Chase Claypool. What they did today was run the ball effectively.
They really did, and that set up some of these big passes. I think Mike Tomlin's got to be happy about that. 147 yards rushing, as well as these big pass plays. Concussion for Teddy Bridgewater. We weren't sure if he was going to play till later in the week. He did. Not much going offensively until the fourth quarter. That touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton made it a closer game. Now it's 8 points. This is a final drive late in the game. It's Bridgewater trying to connect one more time with Sutton. James Pierre comes up with the pick. The Steelers get the win, and here's Big Ben on the victory.
Today it felt really comfortable. I felt like I could sit back there and slide and go to second, third reads at times. So, like I said, I'm proud of the way the guys played and fought today. We challenged the line this week to be better in the pass game, be better in the run game, and honestly, I thought they answered the challenge, in my opinion.
I watched all the Steelers games this week from the start of the season, and you just didn't see a new offense, an electricity, a connection. Did you notice anything today that gives you a little hope for what Pittsburgh can do in the next portion of the season?
Well, I thought their offensive line play was better. They were balanced, and that allowed Ben to do some things in the passing game, and that's what they're going to need.
Well, what is Pittsburgh always known to do is play great defense and run the football effectively, knowing that that's going to set up big play opportunities in the passing game.
That's, I played there. You described Steeler football.
It's the formula.
That's what you're going to need in November and December. That's what they're trying to generate. It wasn't there early in the season. A lot of long yardage situations, long third downs, and Ben Roethlisberger is not going to win these games by himself now. They're going to need everybody. They're going to need that offensive line to step up.
And when you take a step back and look at the Steelers, you see offensive linemen drafted 4 of the starters over the last 3 years. Rookie starter at left tackle, rookie starter at center. But the run game's starting to come together because of the guy they drafted first overall, Najee Harris. His numbers today, compared to the first 4 games for Pittsburgh, significantly improved. And Tony, that's what you were talking about, how the Steelers got back to something they need to do better.
And good running backs, they want the ball. They need the ball. You're not going to see what they're going to do in 12 carries, 14 carries. Get him 20 carries, get him some holes, and this young man can deliver.
You're exactly right. Give him a chance to get rolling, find a rhythm, and that'll continue to build.
Yeah, so Najee Harris with that impressive performance, also involved in the pass game as well. He was, I believe, suffering from cramps late in the game. He was not in those last drives or two. Balaj was in there, but Harris being a factor in this run game will change it for Pittsburgh as well. We'll see the Steelers next Sunday night against the Seahawks, quarterbacked by Geno Smith because of the tendon middle finger injury that Russell Wilson suffered on Thursday night. Update from Arrowhead. Best case scenario is 11 Eastern, 10 Central for the resumption of the game. So it's another 16 minutes away as the heavy rain comes down. Do we have? Yes. We have more highlights. So as the lightning goes, we're going to go to a place where we've seen lightning delays before. Tampa, Miami, and Tampa. Brady and the Bucs after the return last Sunday night, tied at 10, second quarter. Here's Brady, and Antonio Brown does the rest, 62 yards for the score.
It's nice when you can throw a simple, shallow cross, a 5-yard crossing route, get into the hands of one of these guys that can turn that into a 65-yard touchdown.
But wait, there's more. Here comes AB again. 7 catches, 124, and 2 scores.
Did you say simple, shallow cross?
Let's make that times 2.
Fourth quarter, more Brady excellence. This Mike Evans from 22 yards.
Well, it took Miami a while to realize that they shouldn't be playing man-to-man this whole game. So they went to zone, and Tampa still threw touchdowns.
So there are the Brady numbers. Remember, last week we were up in the rain in Foxborough, just around 50% completion, no touchdowns, no picks, all the emotion. Today, over 400 yards and 5 touchdown passes. In all of his regular season games, over 300. And his playoff games, that's 350 games. Tom Brady had never been over 400 yards with 5 touchdowns. You figured like one of the games against Buffalo, one of the games against the Jets, one of the games against the Colts, that he may have done that before, but he had not.
I would have thought so. He was red hot today. And we were in Foxborough last week and said, oh, you know, Bill Belichick, they played man coverage, they slowed him down, they did all those things. Miami, Brian Flores used to be at New England. Oh, he'll have the same formula. Not today.
Coach, you said it before the season opener, which was the Tampa staff felt like Tom Brady may have one of the biggest years of his career statistically when you started looking about the weapons around him and his second year in this offense and his comfort level now. Look at this. They go out and get Giovanni Bernard in the offseason. He's a weapon coming out of the backfield. How are you going to cover him? Can't cover him with just a linebacker. Antonio Brown, he's the 3rd receiver on this team, okay? So he's drawing the 3rd corner. You're going to like that matchup more often than not. And never forget just the simple go ball. A lot of times I look around and say, where did this route go in the realm of college or NFL football? They are throwing it 3 to 5 times a game to Mike Evans, and it's either a reception or a pass interference that goes in their favor.
And we're not even going to mention that Rob Gronkowski wasn't playing today. Not add him into that mix. And who are you going to cover and who are you going to double and what are you going to do?
Short week, tight turnaround. Tampa goes to Philly for the Thursday night game. Miami and Jacksonville are going to go over to London to play next Sunday in the morning. We have other highlights. Where do you want to go? You want to go New England, Houston?
Yeah, let's
go.
At that game.
New England, Houston highlights. The Patriots, how do they bounce back after the return game? Well, Houston had this game under control. Davis Mills, the rookie from Stanford, to Chris Conley. It's 37 yards. It's 22-9 Texans. Remember in this game, New England down 4 offensive linemen. Here they come. The rookie Mac Jones to Hunter Henry. 13 yards. We're tied at 22. Later in the 4th, same score, 3rd and 18. Deep ball here is incomplete, but key mistake here from the Texans.
Yeah, this is a play, and I guess they're going to call leading with the helmet here and hitting him in the chest, and that technically is a foul. That was a big, big turnaround.
And on the same drive, Nick Folk from 21 yards out. Patriots win 25-22 and get ready for a visit from the Dallas Cowboys next Sunday.
Yeah, and Mike, you mentioned 22-9 after that trick play, and then Houston has all the momentum. They actually stopped them, got the ball back. They're ahead 22-9. They have to punt the football now on 4th down and 2. And here's the play that really turned the game around. Punter comes up, gets in the shotgun formation. We're going to try to draw them offside. Now we bring their return man up, and we're going to punt it. Why do all that? It's 22-9. Punt the football, play defense, keep the momentum. That turned the game around.
But you saw this all day, Tony. It wasn't just in this game. Here we are, week 5 of the season, where we should be seeing polished, improving football, and that's not what you saw today.
No, and that's a little frustrating to me as a coach. In October, you should be hitting your groove, and we're seeing it tonight. We're seeing penalties, drop balls, things that we don't usually see from 2 teams of this caliber. But it was a little frustrating, Drew, to watch this all day long.
It was sloppy, but if I could say something about the Patriots, early in kind of a new era with obviously Mac Jones at quarterback, down 4 offensive linemen. If you can just find ways to win,
right.
And even if at times the other team's gonna make mistakes that are gonna give it to you, it's the teams that don't beat themselves. It's the teams that find ways to win in these tight games. Because at the end of the year, it's 1 or 2 of these games that are either going to be the difference between you making the playoffs or not.
Meantime, Houston has lost 4 in a row. They're 1-4. Mike Florio still questions about Deshaun Watson and what's going to happen with him as we get a little bit closer to the trade deadline.
23 days away, Mike. It's Tuesday, November 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern that the trade period ends until March of next year. There has been some speculation and some reporting and a very strong belief that the Dolphins would like to get Deshaun Watson from the Texans, but the Texans have wanted too much for Deshaun Watson, and that has been at an impasse, awaiting whether or not someone will blink as we get closer and closer to November 2nd. There are off-field issues with Deshaun Watson that are very serious and are being taken seriously by the NFL. 20-plus civil complaints, 10 criminal complaints. There's a grand jury that's going to eventually be looking into this situation. A ruling from the grand jury isn't expected before the trade deadline. That's a factor as well. But the Dolphins definitely interested. The question is, will the Texans soften their demands between now and November 2nd?
And what's the health of Tua Tagovailoa? When will we see him come back? Well, you want a drink? We can add some water to it if you'd like. Sounds good right now. The rain continues. It has gotten heavier at Arrowhead. They cleared the lower bowl because of the lightning in the area. So, as we wait with the Bills leading 24-13 at halftime, we've got more highlights. Philadelphia in Carolina take on the Panthers. Panthers had their first loss last week against Dallas. Looked like they were on their way to a win. Mistake here. Philly's lucky they went down 20-3. Pushed out of the back of the end zone and a safety. But they get back in the game. Special teams, a blocked punt here.
Yeah, at this stage in the game, are you kidding me? Just, again, coach, just get the ball punted down there, please.
Fundamental football.
Hurts gets it back. Eagles get down to the 6. He didn't throw any, but he ran 2 and did Jalen. So Philadelphia gets the 2. They go 21-18. And Sam Darnold has thrown 5 picks the last 2 weeks. 3 today, including Stephen Elton with that one on the sideline to close business for the Eagles. So Philadelphia 2-3. Carolina has improved it, or it lost the game. So they go down to 3-2 after the hot start at 3-0. It's a Philadelphia team that I'm not really sure what to make of them here at this point. But you go on the road and get a win like that with Thursday night against Tampa. That's a much more confident Philly team that's going to show up.
It really is, and we've kind of talked about the month of September, starting October, up and down performances. We thought Carolina was red hot, and Philly went in there. Things weren't happening on offense, but their defense actually held the fort down and let that offense get some rhythm.
The defense, 3 turnovers, obviously the block punts, those special teams contributions. But here, taking advantage of some of these risky throws, and yet, this is why you go out and get a guy like Darius Slay to make plays like that. The pass rush they've invested a lot in over the years. That's something that's really paying dividends for them. But when you talk about building a formula for what's going to be successful with this Philly team, right. Good defense and a quarterback who is a dual threat, can do a lot of things for you, ran the ball very well today, has some explosive weapons like Devontae Smith. You've got good opportunities.
This one Carolina's got to feel a little sick about because you don't have Christian McCaffrey. Chuba Hubbard gave them over 100 yards. They ran him 25 or 26 times today. But the mistakes by Darnold, and especially when you had a chance late with a lead and blew that, this is one you're going to look back if you're Carolina and be really disappointed you didn't get.
You really are. You had the lead, you had the momentum, and Sam Darnold made some, as you say, dangerous, risky throws that you shouldn't make when you have the lead.
Especially if you're just paying attention to what's happening in the game, your defense is playing really well. So don't give them a short field. Just, it's okay to punt, and it's okay to win the game 17-7, right? Instead of trying to make some of these risky moves.
Can we do story time here? Well, we have time, so we might as well. The Detroit Lions lost to the Justin Tucker 66-yard field goal. Score of that game was 19-17. That was the same score of the game when Tom Dempsey kicked the 63-yard field goal, and they lost to New Orleans in November of 1970, which set the record for the longest field goal at such time. The Lions lost today in 19-17. Guess how they lost?
Field goal?
Yeah, let's show you how it happened. Minnesota and the Lions going on.
We've seen this movie before.
It's been seen before. Dalvin Cook's missed 2 of the last 3 with an ankle injury. It's Minnesota 16-9. They had a 10-point lead. We're blowing that out of timeouts, and Alexander Madison fumbles here.
Yeah, Detroit still fighting, ripped the ball out. Madison, you got to hang on to it, but Detroit takes advantage.
DeAndre Swift runs with authority, and it's a 1-point game, 16-15. And Dan Campbell said, we're going to go for it.
I love it. I love it.
We're going to go for the win, yeah. And Kadero Hodge with the receiving core banged up, back line of the end zone. It's 17-60. The Lions are going to get win 1. Wait, Kirk Cousins is going to bring him down the field. Former Michigan State Spartan hurting his home state team. Going to throw it to the 36-yard line
play
there.
A deep zone and just make him throw the ball in front of us.
That's right, Adam Thielen there, and that is Greg Joseph. Missed short from 49 before. From 54, they win the game by the score of 19-17. So that's twice in 3 weeks. The Lions have lost a game 19-17. They're the first team to lose on a game-winning field goal of 50 yards or more with no time left on the clock, twice in a single season. And for the Lions, it's happened twice in 15 days. A lot of people talking Dan Campbell and your kneecaps and that preseason soundbite from him. Dan Campbell's got a real thick soul. Listen to what he had to say after the game.
When you see your players give all that they have and you lose that way, it's tough. You don't want that for them. So, but we'll be better for it. you know, and there again, credit Minnesota, but, you know, we made the one mistake that cost us.
It was the easiest bit and the easiest hot take when he came out of his press conference and said we're going to bite people's kneecaps off. But you don't see a coach that emotional and sad 5 games into a season. As a coach watching that, tell me what that was.
Well, that's emotion, that's heartbreak. But I'll say this, I love the way the Lions are playing. They're showing heart. And let me tell you, Dan Campbell, I went through the same thing our first year. We're losing games like this. We started out 0-5, losing games at the last minute, making plays to lose games. I remember walking off the field and this guy just yelling to me, Dungy, you stink. I thought we were supposed to be better. I'm never coming back to a game as long as you're the coach here. And I just walked with my head down. I wanted to cry. But you know what? 1 year later, we were 5-0 and in first place, because our guys kept fighting. I think the Lions believe in this man, and I think they're going to be better. They're playing better football, Drew.
And you know him because you were in the same locker room with Dan Campbell. People forget he was the associate head coach for Sean Payton in New Orleans the last few years.
Well, I played with him a season in 2009, too, in the offseason. So this man played the game like he coaches the game, and I texted him after the game and said, I love the way your team fought. And he texted back, and I felt those emotions in that text message, which was, I love this team, and I love the way they fight. And with all odds stacked against them here as the season has begun until now, and it's tough because they haven't been able to find a way to win yet, but I would feel really good about my football team if I were Dan Campbell, just in watching them fight and scratch and claw, just as he said. And I mean, I think it just epitomizes his mentality as a player and what he's instilling in them.
Let me spin this quickly to Minnesota. At 2-3, they're 2 games behind Green Bay in the top of the division, with Chicago having a good run here. Do you like what Minnesota's starting to put together without Dalvin Cook here 2 of the last 3 weeks?
Well, they are so close. You know, Dalvin Cook had a very questionable fumble against Cincinnati that they could have won that game. Adam Thielen, I still say, got interfered with in the end zone on the last play of the game last week.
Right.
They have a chance to tie that game up. They're right there. Now they've got to find a way to keep winning these tight games, but that division, they're going to be right in it.
Vikings go to Carolina, then they're off, and then they play Dallas and Baltimore. So a rough stretch coming. But if Minnesota keeps playing like this, they'll have a chance to be a part of the story second half of the year. Just heard from the NFL, the update. They hope to have the players back on the field in about 9 minutes. Optimistic that they can do that. 10:05 Central Time to kick at 10:15 Central Time. So that's 11:05 on the field. Eastern Time, 11:15 Central. We're seeing officials talk to Sean McDermott. That's a good thing. And that concludes the longest halftime report. Maybe not. Maybe there's more. Don't go away. We continue. Halftime, Bills lead by 11.
This has been the Toyota Halftime. Let's go places.
It is halftime Sunday Night Football. The Bills lead Kansas City 24-13. We've been in a weather delay because of lightning. There's still hope that get the players on the field in the next 5 or 6 minutes. The game restarted in the next 14 to 15 minutes as that heavy cell has passed through. Michelle Tafoya had a great report telling us how warm and uncomfortable it was in the visitors' locker room. They've been waiting back there, but we're starting to see some stirring from both sides. Let's go back. This is not the first time that we've had a rain delay at Arrowhead. You were there, you remember, I was in the studio. No, 1998, it was the Chiefs and Rich Gannon against the Seahawks right around the anniversary. It was 6 days and 23 years ago that 8 fumbles in this game, but eventually, bad moon rising. Andre, 80 yards from Rich Gannon as the Chiefs, Marty Schottenheimer's Chiefs, beat Dennis Erickson's Seahawks 17-6. And do you remember the shot of Derek Thomas, the late, great Derek Thomas, sitting in the rain there at Arrowhead 23 years ago? We talk about this, guys, and we flash back to that moment and remember some great players and great moments and highlights. But these guys have been sitting for an hour here now. So can you just reset from coach, from player perspective about getting back out on the field in the middle of what is a very, very important game between these teams?
Yeah, basically when it happens as a coach, you tell your guys, hey, sit down, relax. We can't tell you when we're going to play. So don't even think about it now. We'll let you know when there's 15 minutes left or 12 minutes to get yourself going. But the big thing you got to do is just relax and conserve energy.
Yes, exactly right. I've even taken it as far as to say, take your pads off. lay down, kick your feet up, grab a sandwich. Didn't sound like they were happy with their peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Too much peanut butter on the sandwiches next time. But no, it's exactly that. Rest and relax. Get your mind off it, because obviously once the second half kicks off, this is going to be a big half.
Hard to reignite the pilot and get going real quick?
No, because you worry about what you can control. You don't control this.
All right. I was just reaching over because there are 3 highlights left.
We still have more games to look at?
Where were you 13.5 hours ago? Were you awake for the Jets and the Falcons? How dedicated are you? We were up. We were driving over here in the car watching the game on our phone. All right, here are the highlights. Where's Harry Kane? We're at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the Falcons got off to a great start. It's Matt Ryan. It's Kyle Pitts, the 4th overall pick in the draft, his first career touchdown. Falcons up 10-0. Had the play-action game going, Tony.
And we got to see why he was the 4th pick in the draft. They're doing a lot of things with him, all kinds of routes, deep post off play action.
Hits at 9 for 119 at first NFL score. And Cordero Patterson, we found a place for him in the league.
Well, how about put him anywhere and everywhere in this offense, and he is making plays.
That went on to be a touchdown, 27-20. Atlanta beats the Jets in London. They're probably back in the U.S. already. Saints in Washington, 13-13. End of the half. Jameis put it up. Marquez Callaway open. Did they practice this in New Orleans, Drew?
We practice this every Saturday, and they run down there. We basically treat it like a go route. Whoever wants it, jump up and grab it.
Well, he got it. Now Alvin Kamara will take 1 on the ground and then 1 through the air. He had 2 touchdowns. Callaway had 2. 33-22. New Orleans holds on to win as the Saints are 3-2. The Washington football team 2-3. We talked about it watching the game. I haven't seen the Saints look the way they did week 1. What is not happening, even though they're winning by 11 in this case on Sunday?
I don't see the high percentage passing game that I know Sean Payton would like to see, and is really a big part of this offense. They've been able to run the ball at times, although that hasn't been consistent, and they really haven't had big plays, but they had the Hail Mary today, and then they had a spontaneous 3rd down big play. But really, I credit the defense. Defense is playing extremely well. They had 3 takeaways today. That's been a big part of their success.
Now, you were with Jameis a year. Is he capable of being a high percentage throwing quarterback, or is he the gunslinger? Is that just in his DNA?
I think it takes time. I think his innate desire is to be a gunslinger, and he's trying to kind of rein that in and play within the system. But I do sense some hesitation and maybe just not really turning the ball loose like I know he's capable of, and I think that just takes time.
They go to Seattle after a bye week, so the players are starting to come out. We're getting closer to the resumption of this very important game. The Bills ran 24 plays, scored 24 points in the first half, have a 24-13 lead, and they get the ball to start the second half. There's one highlight left. Tennessee and Jacksonville. Of course, a controversial week for Urban Meyer after the video went viral of Meyer and a woman in the bar in Ohio after the game last Thursday. Trevor Lawrence played well. Jacob Hollister here for the touchdowns. Tight game early.
You see some good things from Trevor Lawrence. He's growing every week, and they've got to keep that going.
But the Titans pulled away. Derrick Henry, as per usual, doing it on the ground. He had 29 carries, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. Urban Meyer's team winless and facing the questions after the game.
How emotionally draining was this week for you, considering what happened, and did you see any of that impact any of the players at all today?
I didn't. You could ask them. I apologized earlier in the week, and players had a really excellent week of practice and put ourselves really in a position to win a game at one point.
All right, Mike Florio, bring you back in one last time here. What are you hearing out of Jacksonville?
Well, this all started when Urban Meyer didn't fly back to Jacksonville with the Jaguars after the loss in Cincinnati. And the players, the staff, I'm told, did not know he wasn't going to be on the plane. And people in the organization paying attention to 2 questions. Number 1, was Urban Meyer truthful to owner Shad Khan when he was grilled last Monday when he showed up and there were some tough questions that needed to be answered? And number 2, what will happen next? And that's a fair question when you look at all of the various things that have gone on as Urban Meyer has tried to make this transition in a very clumsy way from college coach to NFL coach, Mike.
Tony, the plane thing, not coming back with the team, that's one of the first things you pointed out to me this week.
I absolutely could not believe that, Mike. In 28 years in the NFL as a coach, 3 years as a player, you always expect your head coach to be there in the front seat, on the bus, or on the plane, wherever you're going. I did not understand that, and I don't know how that chemistry will be in the locker room. We saw Dan Campbell. I know how those players are going to respond to that. How will they respond, Drew, to this situation with Urban?
Well, it's tough because as a head coach, he comes in to try to change the culture, right, and create a new one, and you've got to be the one setting that example, and obviously this was not that at all. Yeah. But at the same time, I think if I'm a player in that locker room, I'm looking at the other players, I'm looking at the leadership, and I'm taking it upon myself as a player to bring the team together and say, you know what, guys, at some point this team needs to take control of itself. In other words, players accountable to one another and us playing for one another at the same time. And I think, forget coaches, they put together the game plan, and there's an element there and there's a role, but at some point the players look at each other and say, let's do this for each other.
And I know you want the players to do that, and they should, but that's what the head coach is paid to do. That's your job.
Jacksonville and Miami in London. That's every highlight from the NFL today. Chicago Marathon was run earlier today. Our Indy colleague Danica Patrick's running the Boston Marathon tomorrow. We've just done the halftime marathon, guys. Bills and Chiefs are back on the field. The Bills get the ball to start the second half. 24-13, Buffalo over KC. Al, Chris, and Michelle in the second half coming up right after this.